Back in that time when I was trying to figure out what Nine Inch Nails was going to be about, there was someone that was vitally important to me, that was a huge inspiration, and it is with great pleasure and honor I present to you Gary Numan.
The song Gary Numan's about to perform with Nine Inch Nails was the song that introduced me to Gary Numan about 14 years ago. Back then I'd ended up with the Nine Inch Nails album. On that album was a cover of a Gary Numan song called Metal. Now 14 years ago was a long time ago, but it still meant I was a relative newcomer to this guy who's been making music since 1977, 5 years before I was even born. With 20 albums under his belt now, it's hard not to respect Gary Numan. His most recent album, Splinter, came out just last year.
I have a level of credibility now which I couldn't have dreamed of so many years ago. Lots of people do cover versions. I mean, lots of people do cover versions now of my stuff.
Yeah, well, I really got into you, like personally, when Nine Inch Nails did that mix of you in 2001. Not a mix, sorry, a cover.
Yeah.
Of me, and that's when I was sort of made fully aware of what you were into.
Really?
So it was that. And then I went back in time and you did that, and I've been following you ever since, I guess, 2001.
Well, that's great. I mean, I think that particular cover, but Trent in general, said so many nice things, and I've been involved with Nine Inch Nails and that for quite some time, and there's definitely been a help, of introducing me to his fans and others. The Foo Fighters have done cover versions, Marilyn Manson, Basement Jaxx.
Well, it's neat seeing your stuff bouncing around like this,
right?
Yeah,
but I mean, every time something like that happens, it introduces you to a new audience, some of whom hopefully will check you out and like what you do. So it helps and builds, and the credibility that comes with that is enormous. Now, you can't put a price on that, but it's very important and valuable. And I think, as luck would have it, my own songwriting definitely picked up around about '94. I went in a different direction musically, much heavier, darker. I don't like the word industrial because it would make
no, but definitely darker.
But yeah,
epic and dark.
Yeah, so more aggressive and so on. Where I've been sort of progressing that ever since. And Splinter is the latest version of that particular journey on that road. So luckily, as these people started to say nice things and his cover version started to come out, and the general awareness of me started to build, I was doing something worthy of it. 2 years before, I did an album called Machine of Soul, which is just a big pile of poo, really. If that new interest had happened then, you can imagine all these Trent Reznor fans and people going, what's he talking about?
Well, look, when you've got 20 albums under your belt, you've got to have one big pile of poo somewhere.
Yeah.
Anyways, I mean, come on.
It's a cork.
I mean, come on.
An exceptionally large pile. If I'm honest. Wasn't my best. But you're right, everyone should have one, I guess.
I mean, come on, yeah. Look,
I recovered though, I did better.
I know. No, you did. No, I wouldn't have used those words, but it's just funny that you do.
I'm with Numan as he prepares for his one show here in New Zealand. It's hard to believe the man who wrote Cars is right here in front of me.
Here in my car, I feel safest of all. I can lock on my doors. It's the only way to live in cars.
He recently moved from his native UK to Los Angeles. Trent Reznor actually wrote one of his reference letters. Anyway, it was a 12-hour flight from LA to Auckland. He arrived here at 5:30 a.m. and the first thing he did was jump in a car and drive to Hobbiton. For a Lord of the Rings fan, that place is like crack. Numan told me he loved the peaceful tranquility of it all.
And for life to be like that, where everyone's together and it's peaceful and there's a village field that everyone meets on, and what a gentle, lovely way of life. No phones, no technology. I love it. I do love it. You know, it's
Says
the
the-
opposite of what my life is.
Yeah, says the guy who's just moved to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
But I wanted to start there because I'm kind of fascinated by this move to LA, because I mean that's the entertainment hub, and you've gone from like dreary old UK to the brightest, most, it's summer all year round.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why? I guess why is it taking you this long to move there, and how are you enjoying it?
Well, the reason that it took so long, I lived there once before. I lived there, I can't remember exactly, 81, 82, but only for 6 or 7 months, you know, and loved it, and always intended to go back. Yeah. And then kind of life happens, doesn't it? You know, the career didn't go so well, and then it went a lot worse, and then it plummeted. So my juvenile thinking at the time was, well, I'll stay in Britain, you know, and I'll sort my career out in Britain.
You'd work hard there.
Yeah, work hard here, build it back up again, abandon the rest of the world effectively to secure this anchor point, if you like, and then I'll do that as if it was easy, and then we'll move back out again and take over the world as we did before. Never really worked out that way at all. We went from bad to worse, and so I eventually, many years had gone by, and then I become rooted, I guess. You know, met Gemma, got married, had children. Eventually.
Yeah, and life. Yeah, once you have kids, it's harder to suddenly uproot and go anywhere.
Yeah, it changes your focus a little bit. But my mum and dad were getting older, very close to them. My mum has cancer; she had it for a long time, and so various battles with that. So you know that desire to sort of want to stay around and be a part of that is very strong. Gemma's always wanted to live in America, however. So since we met, there's been this sort of subtle but relentless pressure to keep moving. She had geographic cravings and she was pregnant. Never craved for Mars bars or dirt or any weird stuff that people have. Every time she heard an American accent, she'd cry. Geographic cravings, I've never heard of it in my life. Anyway, so that was that. So, and then time went on, and we spent a lot of time in America for various reasons, working or whatever. And I love it. I do love it there. But a number of things really. I guess we had the wettest year, I think, on record.
Miserable.
2012, whenever it was.
That's okay. We can deal with a little bit of that.
You sure?
Yeah. If it gets too intense, we'll shut them up. But we'll see how it goes.
So, lost my thread now. What was I saying?
That's right. Wettest year in a very long time.
So I spent an awful lot of time indoors, looking out at the rain, thinking there's got to be more to life than this. And I'm getting older. Yeah. And while I'm not at death's door, I am getting older, and I want to make every day count just a little bit more than I did when I was 21. You know,
it's the pressure.
I haven't got that many left compared to when I was 21. And so I didn't think I was getting enough out of life. I really didn't, and it really actually did become a problem for me, especially when I crossed 50. Yeah. I want to get into film music more. That's become a bit of an ambition for...
Yeah, you want to
not
score
now, but later
film.
years. Yeah. Well, I've done that. I mean, I want it to be more of a thing. Yeah, more of a thing. But there was pressure from my wife. But my children are all little girls, so I did notice that there are still, for all of our talk of equality in Britain, there are still more obstacles put in the way of women than there are men. It's more difficult for a woman to achieve it than in the same sphere. Possibly that happens in America, but from what I could see, it seemed to be less so.
Less so, there's opportunity.
Yeah. So there was weather, opportunity for the children, pressure from the wife, film scores, and other lesser things, but you know, these are all part of... Now, the Americans are incredibly friendly. Service is amazing compared to Britain. In Britain, it's almost a sign of defeat if a waiter puts your plate down on the table rather than 1 or 2 inches before it. You let it go at the last bit so it slides across with a certain air of contempt. Yeah, that's the British way. I just got sick of that, you know.
Yes.
You know, and then wait for their tip.
Yeah, as if.
So...
Now LA, boom, they're out to please.
Yeah.
Everyone is positive, they're out to do their best.
Yeah, and the British are very cynical and they say it's fake. Well, I don't care whether it's fake or not, because it makes me feel nice. You know, somebody saying have a nice day, even if they don't mean it, is a lot nicer than somebody scowling at you and throwing the plate across the room, isn't it? So I kind of, you know, I don't care. My house is fake. It's not really a castle. It just looks like one. But I love it, you know. So I don't want genuine people. I want fake, friendly people. And I actually don't think they are fake. That's the other thing. Yeah,
No.
they are actually.
And they're upfront about what they're after as well. If they are, I mean, everyone's faking it to make it, but they're all genuinely trying to make it.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
everyone's in the
They
same
have an
great
enthusiasm
attitude.
for life, and they are so free of cynicism.
Yeah.
You know, that I find that quite engaging actually.
Yeah.
And I
Cool.
this is not to, sorry, I make it sound like I'm rubbish in my own country constantly, but to try to sort of explain why I moved.
No, completely. And you've just moved somewhere new. You're excited about it.
This man is one of the most open and friendly musicians I've ever interviewed, happily showing me around all his gear, including the guitar he's had for 41 years. Life right now is pretty good for the 56-year-old, loving family, sold out shows. But things haven't always been roses.
This new album is great, and it's been so well received, and I'm so excited to hear a lot of the new tracks live. But rewinding to when your career was nosediving down, can you put that down to something? Was it just the fact that people weren't enjoying your music? Was it something you were doing? Do you have any idea why things went so wrong?
Well, I think there's a number of things really.
I don't want to dwell on this. I'm just sort of curious what your take is.
Well, it's an important part of what you become. You know, the way these things happen and the way you deal with them shapes what happens later.
Yes.
So it's an important part of my life anyway. There were a number of things happened. First of all, I think certainly in the latter part of the bad period, I think my songwriting faded slightly. I got too hung up on listening to advice, which I'd never done before. I'd always had a very clear idea of where I was going and what I wanted to do musically. And then as the career began to struggle, I kind of lost faith in myself. And so I started to listen to record company and whoever, you know.
Whoever was telling you whatever.
Yeah, because everyone knows what you should be doing best, don't they? People that have never written a song in their life know exactly what you should be
Yeah, you'll
doing.
listen to them.
Yeah, but you do. After a while, you lose faith in yourself so much that you just think, I wonder if he's right. Give it a try. Give that one a try. And before you know it, you've lost all sense of what you're about and what you want to sing about and what you want to look like even. And it's a weird process. Difficult to explain actually quickly, you know. But anyway, that was definitely part of it. I think the songwriting went off the boil eventually. I was blacklisted unofficially by Radio 1. Which is the national radio station.
Radio 1's huge.
So, when you're putting out single after single and nobody hears it.
What, someone in there took a disliking to you and what you were doing?
Yeah, I got caught up in some problem with the record company. I think Warner Brothers or...
Right, and you were sandwiched in there.
Yeah, they were. I never did get to the bottom of it, but there was some problem to do with something.
Okay.
And I got...
And radio was a huge way of distributing music.
Yeah, but it was very weird though. I mean, my manager at the time had a meeting with a Radio 1 senior producer who said if Gary would write another song like Cars or Our Friends Electric, he would play it. And then there was a fire alarm or something and the meeting was cancelled. And so my dad went back the next week, so my manager went back the next week. And with the same man who said, the trouble with Gary's stuff is it all sounds like Cars and Our Friends Electric. And so she said, but last week, you said the opposite. And he said, no, I didn't. So it was clearly nothing to do with that. There was something else going on, and we never got to the bottom of it exactly. But no, whatever it was, it happened. Unfortunately, the fans made it slightly worse, because the fans in Britain carried out a little campaign which ended with a big protest outside of Radio 1's headquarters with hundreds of people there with banners saying play Numan. And it was all very lovely and very touching, but they thought I'd put them up to it. And so that was done.
Numan again!
I had nothing to do with it, you know. I actually found it slightly embarrassing, to be honest, but I honestly, I swear
it's endearing,
to you,
but really quite annoying at the same time.
But it just made it worse. You know, it didn't help anything at all. So that was that. So that was that.
Songwriting, Radio 1.
Songwriting, Radio 1. Time, I guess. New things come along.
And then here we are now, and everything. I mean, you're in a great position now. Like, this record's great. Everyone you've got, like, critically, you're great. Your fans like you. It's great.
Yeah. Yes. It's pretty good now. Yeah.
We were awake in the field. was all around.
Critically, Splinter is doing very well indeed, the album getting Numan the best reviews he's had in years. As is typical with him, the tone of the whole thing is fairly dark. That's just the way he's wired.
For me, there is a certain kind of thing that sparks a creative section of my brain. And it tends to be darker things. I find them fascinating. I enjoy writing about them, whether it's a personal experience or something that I've invented. There's a few things on Splinter which are invented from a story that a novel that I'm trying to write. He says pretentiously. Never going to finish it, probably. But most of it is from bitter experience. You know, that I was diagnosed with depression a few years ago, and I had to fight that and get through that. And Splinter largely looks at that period.
Right.
So it's things like that. You know, if I go out, like I'm not going to write about going to Hobbiton because it was lovely. Yeah, and I had a great day. Well, I'm not going to get anything out of that at all. If we'd have crashed on the way, yeah,
another album.
Yeah, I'd have a row with somebody or a fight, and loads of stuff. Yeah. And that, because that makes it work.
Yeah.
Now, that I guess in a way that's unfortunate, but in another way it's actually very useful. And with the depression, for example, it's a horrible thing to talk about because it's not very interesting.
No.
But
it's part of
to be able to write about it. To be able to sit back as you were getting better, where you can sort of analyse it more and think about it in a more kind of sensible way. You can write down the experiences and the feelings that you had and the trouble that it brought, and it's almost it's kind of like the final part of the cure. It gets it out in a way that is very kind of constructive, I think. And by having to think about it a lot, you come to understand it better. Then, especially when you're immersed in it, when you're in it, you can't clearly at all. So, but I think that's happened to me many, many times in my life. Being able to write about problems has been very useful for being able to get through them, or around them, or whatever it might be. It's a very therapeutic thing at times, not every time, but to be able to do. I'm never going to write a song like Shiny Happy People. I haven't got the talent for it, and I haven't got the interest for it either.
No, I get that completely.
But having said that, I don't think Splinter, as an example, I don't think it's a depressing or negative thing. It's not a negative experience to listen to at all. Now that might be because I wrote it as I was coming out the other end, so I was actually in a better place. Or it might just simply be that there is a way of talking of that sort of stuff that still has a power and an energy to it, which is exciting to listen to.
Couldn't agree more. I don't feel down in the dumps when I listen to that record. It feels great, but it is coming from a bit of a dark place.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, we talk about what's it about? Well, it's about depression. You can see people, see their backs bend. So, I try to qualify it. It's not as bad as it seems, but it isn't. It's not.
Maybe that's why he's got mega fans like Jim Napier from the North American Gary Numan fan club. He's seen so many Gary Numan gigs, he's become good friends with the musician. This year alone, he's seen 32 of his shows, around 250 gigs in total. But this is the first Numan gig he's ever seen in New Zealand.
And he's obviously been pretty cool about this. He's just like, come along, come to shows. I mean, how did that relationship kick off?
Well, he just kind of saw me in the front row, and I think it was by Chicago. He said it was always good to see a friendly face in the front row. So.
And how do you fund it? Do you just basically work really hard, then take some holiday time? How does it work?
That's it. Even my folks go, he works just to travel. But it's about priorities. You can spend it all drinking and smoking and stuff. You can go and create everlasting memories with your favorite artist.